campaign website says he is a son of Hawaii. The Republican candidate for the U.S. Congressional District 2 seat touts his native roots and military experience in the intelligence community in an effort to swing voters his way against frontrunner Democrat and veteran lawmaker Jill Takuda. We talked to Akana this morning. He wants to support small businesses and to do more to help our kapuna with the cost of living.
First of all, I think we got to understand, I'm not a politician, right? I mean, I'm a veteran. I'm a business owner. I've been in civil service, worked up at U.S. Pacific Command and in the civil service. And I have that extensive experience, in the national intelligence with project management opportunities, requirements management. And my last time was actually dealing with the readiness for the command, for the U.S. Pacific Command. So again, I'm not looking for a career advancement, but I am focused on, serving leadership and serving the people of Hawaii.
And was there any one thing that tipped you over the edge, to say, I'm going to run?
Well, I ran in 2020, and a lot of it was, I got to looking at where we're going. I served in the military and as a civil servant for 25 years. And one of those issues we're always looking at, I was always looking at was freedom, right? I mean, that was a main staple of our core values, being a loving freedom and abiding in that freedom. And yet, when you see the degradation of those going away, you've seen people wanting to take away our First Amendment rights of freedom of speech, freedom of the press, like what you guys are doing, freedom of religion. I mean, my goodness, really, we're going to take these things away from people? Those are key factors. So when it came to me looking at, running in 2020 and now here in 2022, is that based on faith, family, and freedom, my core values. And those were key areas that I thought, man, this is where we could actually be the most benefit and put the best foot forward based on my core values and what we've been doing for most of my life, right, as far as serving people.
And what do you say to voters out there who want to know, where do you stand on Trump? Because there might be voters out there, who would vote for you, based on, where your loyalties lie.
I think the most important thing we can think about is that Trump's not running in 2022. Let's focus on the 2022 election. I mean, we have a lot of real problems. I mean, we should be focusing on that, especially in the state and in the federal government. I mean, if you like looking at our inflation, if you look at our consumer price index, if you look at our electric costs, our electric bills going on, you look at the gas prices, all of these things are driving people crazy. If you can go to a Costco, for example, I just had a discussion with some folks out in Maui about this, and they were saying that, hey, I used to be able to go to Costco and get 2 baskets of groceries for like $500. Now I get one for the same $500. So if you kind of look at that, you go, wow, what does that mean? What is that costing our people? It's costing, right? This inflation-driven pricing. As far as for what I did or did not like about Trump, I don't agree with Trump on everything. I just tell people straight up, right? I don't agree with him on everything, but I don't agree with my mom and dad on everything either. I don't agree with my friends on everything. I think the best thing we can be looking at is how can we work together and figure out answers? How do we figure out solutions to what we were just describing as far as our issues that we have in the state and on the federal government? National security. They said they estimated, I think, or they had over 2 million people have crossed the border. Is that an issue? Yeah, that's an issue. We look at our inflation. Consumer price index is up, 10.2%? Something to that effect. Let's look at those issues. Why is inflation going up so high? Why are we spending so much money? You and I know, Catherine, that real quick, right? You cannot spend more money than you make. Right? I know I can't spend more money than I make. You can't spend more money than you make, because we'll very quickly be in a very high debt situation if we do that. So how is our government able to do that? How are the government able to continue pushing this thing and signing checks for the American people and the people of Hawaii? We keep pushing this thing down, and then, we just keep signing blank checks. And then what? More and more debt that we're leaving to our children, a legacy of debt. I mean, let's think about it. They did the Inflation Reduction Act recently. And in that, 87,000 armed IRS agents were approved in that bill. Why do we need 87,000 armed IRS agents for? Anybody got any answers for that? I mean, those are the kind of things we got to look at, right? How about the infrastructure bill that was passed? $1.9 trillion infrastructure bill. Hawaii got $2.8 billion of that $1.9 trillion. That's like 0.004%. In my mind, our legislative body did not do us justice. They did not help us at all. We have an $84 billion infrastructure shortfall in the state of Hawaii that they're not even talking about. Why? Why not? Why aren't we bringing this to our table? But to only get $2.8 billion out of, what, $1.9 trillion? Why didn't they ask for $100 billion? At least ask. Go get it. Let's go. Let's go work for the people of Hawaii, because that's who we are supposed to be serving, is the people of Hawaii.
Well, I don't know about the armed IRS agents. I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. But
that's actually in the bill.
What do you want to say to people about trying to work across the aisle? There's just so much divisiveness now, and there's a real struggle in the House for power.
Right. And I think you got to get rid of this divisive language to include stuff like people talking about people of color or women of color. Just get rid of the divisive language, and let's talk about us as humans and people. In Hawaii, we have that term, the ho'oponopono, right? And everybody, they think they understand that. But what does that really mean? It's taking a person sitting down, having a cup of coffee, eating some food, talking about, hey, let's resolve an issue. Let's figure this out, how we can take care of this moving forward. And none of that is coming to the table and yelling at the other person going, oh, you're this or you're that, or I can't talk to you because you're a Republican. I can't talk to you because you're a Democrat. I can't talk to you because you're green or you're purple or red or whatever you are. I mean, that's just crazy. Let's just sit down and talk to each other like we're human. I mean, did we forget about that? Did we forget that we're human beings as well? Because that's really what it comes down to. Let's just sit down and talk story. Let's just sit down and say, hey, what's on your mind? What is causing you to be so stressed out about X, Y, Z, or this issue or that issue? That's really what it comes down to. And when it comes to the divisiveness, I don't ask people to agree with me 100% of the time. But I like what Ronald Reagan said, is that if you can agree with somebody 80% of the time, guess what? You get an opportunity to move things along a lot quicker than if you don't agree at all.
I think folks were very alarmed at what they saw on January 6th. And then, we just saw the attack against Nancy Pelosi's husband. What do you want to say to voters out there about those incidents, about the violence?
Well, the same thing. So let's think about this. January 6th, people all saying it was this big issue, right? There's a controversy there because, one, not all the evidence has been portrayed. We don't know what everybody is seeing. We haven't seen both sides of the story. What we've seen is what the media wants us to see. And we have seen other videos. We have seen other things that allow people to see a different side of the story. But again, the most important thing is we see these things. Let's look at the real information. Let's get the facts. Let's see what's really going on in that before we start making, I'm going to say, rules and say, oh, we're going to settle ourselves that this is what actually happened. As for, Mr. Pelosi, I'm sorry that happened to him. Sorry he got attacked like that. I don't agree to, having those kind of violence and issues. But I think the most important thing is to remember is that we're all in this fight together. And we need to treat each other with kindness and respect. We need to treat each other as a human element, right? We need to remind ourselves that we're humans. We're all part of the same race, right? We're sort of the same race of people. Let's remind ourselves of that. I don't anywhere whatsoever agree with the violence that gentleman took with that. But all of the facts aren't coming out on that either with regards to Mr. Pelosi. We still need to get information before we start judging. We're so quick to rush to judgment without actually taking a look at all the facts. And not the conspiracy theories or not the tin hat guys wearing. Let's look at the actual facts of the case. And then we can move forward from that before we start judging everyone.
What would your priority be if the voters elect you?
I touched on some of those bases earlier. We were talking about working out in inflation, working at getting that reduced down, the electric costs, the gas costs. All of those things are issues that we need to work on. The biggest issue we have in Congress, in my mind, is Congress keeps forgetting what their job is. And their job is to be doing appropriations to make sure that the country is running. How many times in the past, having worked in the federal government, I can tell you this, every single time when it came around for the new year to start, we were working on continual resolutions. Not a balanced budget. The budget didn't get approved, didn't get through. So we're working on these continuous resolutions, and we're not actually solving anything. We're not solving the problem, right? The next thing I want to work on is the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act and updating that. This is critical to what we believe, in the Hawaiian community. Me being Native Hawaiian myself, this is something I believe we have to resolve. And one of those issues is the blood quantum requirement. In case most people don't know, the Hawaiian Homes Commission Act right now required that Hawaiians or Native Hawaiians, Kanaka Maoli, have a 50% blood quantum in order to be getting a leased land. Well, what happens when there's no more 50% Hawaiian? That was 100 years ago that this thing happened. And today, from what I heard the last number, there's only 27 full-blooded Hawaiians out there. 100% Hawaiian. There's only 27 of those. So that's what we need to be looking at as part of the Congress. We need to fix this and adjust it so that we remove the blood quantum requirement from a percentage-based to a genealogical-based one. And we need to get that done. The other thing we need to do is continue Kuhio's legacy with regard to that and move that forward. So those are two of the issues. And, of course, the third one would be the Jones Act. And people don't understand it. I'm looking for just an update and a modernization of the Jones Act. Some people say reject it, repeal it, get rid of it. I don't agree with that. I think the Jones Act serves a purpose. It definitely does. But I do think we need to update it because it's a 1920s act. Let's update that and make it more real for today's world. In 1920, Hawaii wasn't even a state. That was 60 years ago, and we're still operating under the same auspices of what happened in 1920. We need to update this so that we can actually work as a state and we can help lower costs. Grassroots Institute did a study on this, I believe it was back in 2020, and they said the average family in Hawaii with an update to the Jones Act would actually save about $1,800 a year. That may not seem like a lot, but when we see what's going on with inflation and we see what's going on with the consumer price of index in Hawaii, I think that is a lot. It's going to come out to be a lot, $1,800. That's a lot.
That was Joe Akana, candidate for U.S. Congressional District 2, a former veteran who spent 25 years in the intelligence community and who is running on the Republican ticket.